up girls, my name's Dan, welcome back to the Forge. In this episode of Trust Me I'm a Blacksmith, we're going to be talking about slitting and drifting holes. In a recent Rough and Ready, I made these legs as part of one of the episodes and we punched this hole here. And to do that, we used a slitting punch, just like this one here. In fact, it was this one. And a drift, just like this one here. Also, this one. So what I'm going to talk about today is how we can take these tools and punch and slit some holes in some different size stock. So for this video we're going to be using mild steel. I've got some square stock here. This is 20 square or 3/4 of an inch square, and I've also got a little bit of flat bar here, and this is 25 by 25 by 8 or inch by 5/16. We're also going to need some basic tools other than an anvil, a fire, a hammer and a pair of tongs. If your stock is too short to hold with your hands, you're going to need to get some tools to actually punch the hole. Now the first thing that you're actually going to have to get is a slitting punch. A slitting punch removes hardly any material as opposed to a round punch. So the slugs that come out from a round punch can often be quite large, which means you lose that material as you punch the hole, whereas with something like a slitting punch, you don't remove as much material. Now there's some important things to remember when you're making your slitting punches at home. What you want is nice transitions. You don't want any area where there's any sharp edges. Those sharp edges will snag and catch on your work and we'll get something called draw through. Now draw through can reduce the section that your material is at and can be a bit unsightly depending on what you're trying to do. The second thing that you'll need to get is some sort of drift, and it's important that the drift is at the size of the hole that you want to finish. Now when it cools down and it's too small, if it is too small, you can drift it so it's slightly bigger after you've run this drift through. You can take a tapered drift and sort of swell the eyes out so they're slightly tapered, which is fine, which is one way to do this, or you can just drill it out afterwards, but you'll be drilling out a very tiny amount of material to the correct size. Either way is good, but it just depends on your experience or your time scale and so on and so forth. You will also need to get a bolster plate. Now I think they are pretty much the most important part after the slitter and a well-fitting drift. The bolster plate stops your eye from collapsing as you start drifting it through. I would collect a wire brush of some description. This will help keep your work nice and clean as we're forging it. You'll need a centre punch and some chalk and some way of measuring up and marking out where you want to lay up your hole. And if you can, you might want to find yourself some sort of lubrication for your tooling so that as it passes through the hole it doesn't snag up, it reduces drift and it increases the amount of performance that you get out of your punch, both from a cooling effect and also lubrication. This is beeswax and graphite. Okay, first thing I'm going to do, take it out of the fire. Just going to give it a bit of a brush, find that centre dot mark. Grab my punch. This isn't at what I would consider a top end punching temperature. All I want to do is mark it up. Now if this material was any bigger, I would have marked both sides. I would have marked both sides up in order to make the hole punching a little bit less traumatic on the starting stock material, but it's 20mm for this one side's fine. So I've punched once this side, I've turned it round and punched both, and the reason for doing that is that takes any irregularities out of the punch if it's not been ground very well or forged very well. And I've also got the ability now to just sort of look at this temperature and go, yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. I'm pretty sure that's going to go through straight, and then I can move on to the next step. Okay, let's punch this hole. So I'm going to wet my hand and also the tooling, and this does two things. It stops you from seeing your hole. No, it doesn't. It just, as the moisture on your hand evaporates off, it actually keep your hand cool, but it does the same thing for the punch, so you're not going to burn yourself when you're holding it. Now what I'm doing is I'm going to punch the hole, take the punch out every time, and I'm going to keep looking to make sure that this is nice and central. I hope you can see that nicely. I'm going to do this slowly. Cool. Okay, so what I've gone and done now is I've punched down about halfway on this heat. And I'm just going to straighten this up again because it's starting to bend a bit. Now we want to be working in these hotter temperatures to stop the draw through, but I also want to be using some sort of lubricant now. That'll help a lot in the next sort of process, next couple of steps. But I'm going to get this up to a good temperature again and punch this hole real good. I'll move the camera so you can see it a bit better. Okay, so I've got that material hot again. Keep our hand real clear of anything. Wet my hand. I don't want to get the drift wet this time, the punch wet this time, because I've used some lube on it this time, and that's what I'm going to do every time now. Instead of quenching it off, I'm just going to use the graphite and the beeswax. I'm hoping, I'm pretty much there now, so I'm just going to turning it every time. Right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to flip this over, and I'm hoping I'm going to be able to see a bit of a shadow, which I can. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to have a look where I think it is, give it a mark, maybe a bit bigger than that, just a touch bigger so you can see the mark. I don't know if you can see the mark. So put the mark in, I'm going to turn it over, and then I'm just going to give that a crack. And if I've got it in the right place, I should have flattened that back ever so slightly. But what I can see I've done is I've actually loosened off the slug. So I've made a pretty much bang on target hit there. So what I'm going to do now is get this hot again, strain it up a bit as well. Okay, nice heat again. I'm pretty sure I'm in the right place, so I'm going to take a gamble. And I'm just going to give a couple more taps on this side. Yeah, and bang on. I've pretty much knocked that slug out now. Where did it go? I've lost it. And I'm just going to sink the drift through a few more times. The punch, sorry. And just, what I'm going to try and do is not to hit the anvil, but I'm trying to open up the hole to a point where the drift will sit into the hole quite nicely without requiring much effort to get it in. It's annoying I've lost that slug, oh well. So I don't want to go any further than that. At the minute, at least anyway. Cool, lovely. Right. So there's our hole, all nicely punched. I didn't see where the slug went. I might be able to find it in the camera footage, but I can't see it on the anvil. It must have popped out quite nicely. I can't see where it's gone. Anyway, that's our hole. It's gone through quite nicely, and we're going to move on to the drifting and bolstering stage next. Okay, so this time what I'm going to do, I'm going to place this on our bolster. I'm going to take my punch, I'm going to get him in the hole, and then using our hammer, I'm going to find the smallest hole initially, the smallest hole on this bolster at least, to start working on punching this through just a little bit more to open it up. Now, one of the things you could do is you could upset this or jump it up to get this to open up, but I find that sometimes just opening it up with the drift or the punch that you started with is a good way to get it going. And then you want to start on the smallest possible hole you can start with, then work up to a slightly bigger one, and then keep working through that process until your hole is a sufficient size to fit the drift through, so you can see it the other side basically. Okay, so we're going to start from our last hole position, and we're going to start running that drift through until all of it touches on all of the sides, and then I'm just going to knock this out now, and we're going to get it hot again and going to do the other side. I'd like to reiterate, I'm doing this very slowly. I would normally do this in probably 2 heats. So this is our drifted to size, and the other side is still slightly elongated. So what we'll do is get this hot again and pop the drift through from the opposite side. And then lastly, I'm going to find the hole where I can pass the drift all the way through without it snagging up. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode. The holes came out really well. I'm really hoping this video's come together quite nicely, and I also hope it's been of some use to some of you guys and girls at home. I use techniques like this a lot. It's one of my favourite things to do, hole punching, and hopefully what I've shared is helpful. Now, the next episode, like this one, I'm going to do tenons because that relates to another rough and ready that will be coming out very soon. But I'd like to know what else you guys and girls at home would like to see. So down in the comments, leave me a message and let me know what kind of stuff you'd like to see in these episodes, basic skills that you might like to know a bit more about when it comes to blacksmithing. Okay, I'm going to leave this video there. If you did enjoy this video, please leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you are a subscriber, why not ring that bell for notifications? It tells you every time I make videos. I make videos as often as possible, mostly once a week, sometimes a few more, sometimes a little bit less, but there's always a video coming out at some point. I'm always working on something. And if you did enjoy this video and you would like to support the channel in any way, shape or form, there's loads of great ways you can do that. Some of them are financially exclusive, some of them are not, some of them are free. So one way you can do it is by commenting, sharing, liking and doing all that really good stuff, and subscribing to the channel. It helps me out a lot, so if you would do that, that would really, really help. The Instagram is a great way to get sneak peeks and also get in touch with me and also see all the lovely stuff that I've made here in the workshop. Now, I upload stories where we talk about some of the things that are going on here, and I ask people for advice on things that I think I don't know best on. And that's not rare, often. No. And then also, if you wanted to get hold of me, send me a message, ask me a question, just generally keep up and say hello, DM me there, because that's probably the easiest way to get hold of me at the minute. Emails can be messy. You could also go over to my Etsy and buy something from my shop. The Etsy covers everything from things you need as a beginner to pro hammers, just like this absolutely gorgeous one that I made recently for a customer. This is a 3.4 pound rounding hammer. It's going out to the States, and I've also got some tong blanks here. I make tong blanks and all sorts of really cool stuff like that. There's t-shirts, stock, just anything and everything that you could think of that you might need as a blacksmith. And that's it. Thank you for joining me. I will leave a link up here to a video of something that YouTube thinks is best for you. This one down here is the most recently uploaded video. The one here is probably the last version of one of these videos. I don't know, I'll put something random there, and that's the subscribe button. Thank you so much for joining me. See you later. Bye-bye. Bye.